on scene here that we're getting this information from. We were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement vehicles at least. There are 3 Bearcats on scene here. This just all unfolded, Sandra, I would say less than 10 minutes ago. We got here even before the crime scene tape came up.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires.
In a shocking turn of events, the FBI has just dropped a bombshell on music mogul Sean Diddy Combs with his arrest. From high-profile raids to disturbing accusations, this case has captivated the public and raised serious questions about the people we think we know. Today, we'll unravel the shocking details of what Diddy has just confessed to the FBI and the implications for everyone involved. A few months ago, the FBI conducted a high-profile raid on Diddy's home in Holmby Hills. The operation was extensive, with agents combing through the property for hours.
On scene here that we're getting this information from. We were actually the first ones here with about 30 different law enforcement vehicles at least. There are 3 Bearcats on scene here. This just all unfolded, Sandra, I would say less than 10 minutes ago. We got here even before the crime scene tape came up. So we're just down the hill. If you look up this street where Tony is right now to the right, you'll see one of those Bearcats and law enforcement. And on the other side of those bushes, basically, is that home that is registered to Bad Boy Films, which is part of Bad Boy Entertainment. And the home in particular is registered not only to Bad Boy Films, but to one of P. Diddy's daughters.
They are heavily armed, and they've been very tactful, would probably be the best word to use, as they made entry into this home this afternoon. We actually watched them as they made their way through one of these side gates, and as soon as they got inside the home, one of the first things they did was made their way into this garage that you see is open right there.
However, to everyone's surprise, Diddy was not present during the raid. This absence only added fuel to the fire about the speculations that Diddy had something to hide.
Now, they did take a couple people into custody. We witnessed that. Now, are they under arrest? Are they just being asked about what they know? That I can't answer, but I can tell you there's 3 people right there that were taken into custody, were inside that home at the time of the raid.
We did see a bunch of investigators going in, making the raid in there and clearing that as well. So they're going to do a thorough search as they conduct this raid. And so far, Stu, from what I understand and from Haley on the ground there, they have not seen, and we have not seen from our vantage point, any sign of Sean Combs, the 54-year-old who is believed to be the property owner of this.
According to a former FBI agent, while the raid itself wasn't entirely unexpected, given Diddy's history of legal troubles, the nature of the allegations was jaw-dropping. The agent revealed that what truly caught people off guard was the extent of Diddy's alleged involvement in a sex trafficking ring, which reportedly includes minors.
All right, your overall thoughts on this raid. What a development this is.
You know, it is quite a development, but, you know, just like you mentioned before, I'm not necessarily surprised that it happened because there has been so much in regards to civil cases. Now, I realize that those civil cases are going to have no bearing on the raids that occurred. I understand that. But at the same time, in my opinion, where there's smoke, there's fire, and a lot of these civil cases probably have criminal merit at some point. And so I am not necessarily surprised that this happened, but what will surprise me, and I think might surprise some people, is the sheer volume and connection of any kind of sex trafficking ring that he allegedly may have been running. I think that is what is going to come probably as the most surprising to folks, how in-depth something like this was, how long something like this may have gone on for, and how many people were involved. Typically, HSI really looks at sex trafficking in regards to minors. And so that's another layer to this as well that I think is probably the surprising component.
The former FBI agent drew a chilling comparison between Diddy and the infamous Jeffrey Epstein. Instead of high-profile politicians, however, Diddy's alleged clients are primarily figures from the entertainment industry. The agent warned that this could be a sprawling network that will take considerable effort to untangle.
Comparison to Epstein, I think, Epstein, he was also recording and also had secret cameras really throughout all of his homes, private planes, all of that. And, his client list was more about politicians. Here, I think what we're going to see are clients involved in the entertainment business or pop culture, if you will. And so I do think right now this is going to be a huge web that they're going to have to untangle. And I'm expecting it's going to take quite some time to go through all of that digital evidence, because I fully expect that he had cameras in other locations as well. It's my understanding that those aren't just his two sole places of residence and where he spends time. So I suspect there will be more digital evidence.
Fast forward to September 17th, and the situation took a dramatic turn. Diddy was finally arrested by federal agents at his New York hotel. This marked a pivotal moment in the case, confirming the severity of the charges against him.
Breaking news: Sean P. Diddy Combs has been arrested and indicted on federal charges. The disgraced music icon has faced startling allegations for months of rape, sexual assault, physical abuse, gun trafficking, and drug trafficking. On Monday evening, he was indicted by a grand jury in New York. He was taken into custody in Manhattan, where he's been for the last week in anticipation of these charges. Now, the charges haven't been made public just yet. In fact, the indictment was sealed. But according to the New York Times, a person familiar with the prosecution says they believe Diddy faces charges of racketeering and sex trafficking. Diddy's legal team said they were disappointed with the decision to prosecute, but mentioned their client has been cooperative with law enforcement.
The indictment against Diddy is particularly damning. The charges echo those leveled against R. Kelly, including racketeering, which is a serious crime involving ongoing criminal organizations. The similarities in the cases are drawing considerable attention and concern.
Because as Mark Agnifilio, his attorney, said to the press today and last night, they were anticipating racketeering and sex trafficking charges, and that is what we see in this grand jury indictment. It is 14 pages long. There are 3 counts. One that makes up the majority of this indictment is the racketeering enterprise. So let me go through it with you right now. Now, racketeering, and by the way, I will tell you this is similar to what we saw with R. Kelly, who, as we know, was also indicted in federal court in New York. That was the Eastern District of New York. This is the Southern District. He was ultimately convicted and sentenced to 30 years in prison. So racketeering, what we are talking about here, is a criminal enterprise. And a conspiracy to commit the racketeering statute is there's a criminal agreement, there's a number of overt acts, there's predicate crimes. So there's things that Diddy is not necessarily being charged with on an individual basis, but they make up this criminal enterprise. In other words, there's evidence that will show this is a criminal enterprise.
At a recent press conference, the U.S. attorney detailed the severe allegations against Diddy. The charges include bribery, kidnapping, and sex trafficking, among other heinous crimes. The gravity of these accusations paints a disturbing picture of Diddy's alleged activities.
Today I'm announcing the unsealing of a 3-count indictment, charging Sean Combs with racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking, interstate transportation for prostitution. The indictment alleges that between at least 2008 and the present, Combs abused, threatened, and coerced victims to fulfill his sexual desires, protect his reputation, and conceal his conduct. As alleged in the indictment, to carry out this conduct, Sean Combs led and participated in a racketeering conspiracy that used the business empire he controlled to carry out criminal activity, including sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, arson, bribery, and the obstruction of justice.
In an eerie prediction, Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, had actually foreseen Diddy's arrest. Deal, who had inside knowledge from a friend involved with Homeland Security, accurately predicted that Diddy would face legal consequences in September. It seems Deal's insight was spot on.
Oh man, yeah, that's crazy, man. But have you been hearing any news about him getting indicted or no?
No, one of my friends who was actually in the studio with him, said that Homeland Security brought him in, and this dude is he's a fraternity brother of mine, but he's also a producer, an engineer, and he was in the studio the night one of the girls made a complaint. The night something happened to one of the girls, and he told the lawyer everything that the girl told him, which was crazy. And Homeland Security brought him in. So he told them they wouldn't let him know what they were doing, but it seemed like that something might happen before Labor Day.
Wow, before Labor Day?
Yeah.
Interestingly, many of the accusations Diddy now faces were anticipated by former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe. Back when the FBI first raided Diddy's home, McCabe had speculated about the nature of the allegations, some of which have now come to fruition.
Well, it's not uncommon for allegations in civil lawsuits to be considered by federal investigators and federal prosecutors and reviewed to determine whether or not a federal crime may have been committed. And that seems to be what happened here. I thought it was interesting that the attorney's statement really basically confirmed for the public that some of the investigative interest was likely generated from these lawsuits, which is interesting because several of the lawsuits allege activity that likely would fall within the parameters of sex trafficking. Several of these women claim to have been transported from one state to another and then drugged and assaulted. Or his former girlfriend who claims to have been forced to perform sex acts with different people in different states as they traveled around the country. So I think it was an unfortunate almost admission by the lawyer. Not that it has legal significance, but it certainly puts us in a position to speculate more accurately about what's actually driving this investigation.
As the legal battle heats up, Diddy's sons have arrived in New York to attend the court proceedings. Their presence adds another layer of drama to the unfolding saga. Many of them have a history of behaving like their father and are embroiled in ongoing legal troubles. Due to this, there is speculation that some of them might end up in trouble like Diddy soon enough.
The yacht incident, which we're going to get into, was mentioned in Jones's lawsuit against Diddy, with Jones claiming in the complaint that he had personal knowledge that Christian drugged and sexually assaulted a woman. And a footnote was included that a complaint would be forthcoming. Now, at the time, I was wondering if Jones would be the one suing Christian. After all, he already sued Christian's brother and Diddy's other son, Justin. But I was struggling to figure out what would be his cause of action against Christian. Well, it turns out that Jones is not suing Christian. It is actually the woman who was allegedly assaulted by Christian, and she is being repped by Jones's lawyer. I will explain. So first, this development comes almost 2 weeks after Diddy's homes in Miami and Los Angeles were raided by Homeland Security investigators. It's part of a sweeping sex trafficking investigation by the Southern District of New York, or at least that's what it's being reported. That's what sources from law enforcement are indicating. Now, Diddy's two sons, Justin and Christian, they were seen in handcuffs outside of that LA home during the raid. They weren't under arrest. They were merely detained while officers were assessing the situation and going into the home. But Diddy, Justin, and Christian, they have all been named in these very big lawsuits.
During a press conference, the U.S. attorney outlined severe human rights abuses linked to Diddy's alleged freak-offs. These events, orchestrated by Diddy, are said to involve serious human rights violations against individuals, including drugging people and sending them over state lines.
Let me say a little bit more about the charges. The indictment alleges that Combs abused and exploited women and other people for years, and in a variety of ways. As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial sex workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial sex workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, such as ketamine, ecstasy, and GHB, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs, and that Combs hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged victims, at times by their hair.
A TV show co-host mentioned how the case against Diddy is similar to cases brought against organized mobs. In fact, it involves many similar charges.
And this was more disturbing to me. It's only 14 pages, but within the 14 pages, it describes, mob-like behavior. These cases are generally brought against mobs. So they are describing a criminal enterprise that involved trafficking of underage people across state lines to have sex, and they dubbed them freak-offs. They raided his homes and found 1,000 vials of lubricant.
Yep, and
they
baby
raided
oil.
his homes and they found narcotics.
But that's not, the lubricant is not.
It ain't a crime, guys.
It ain't a crime.
But it is evidence, it can be used as evidence of a freak-off, because they also have, they were calling these orgies, basically, that he orchestrated as a criminal enterprise with underage girls and commercials, and some of age, and commercial sex workers traveled across state lines, which is criminal, illegally.
The U.S. Attorney also presented evidence recovered from Diddy's properties, including large firearms and ammunition. This evidence not only bolsters the case against him, but also shows how Diddy was a violent as well as dangerous person.
Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced. Another picture of more ammunition and parts of 2 AR-15s right there. Now, I want to be clear about 2 things. First, this office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that. A year ago, Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
As the U.S. Attorney and the Department of Justice vow to bring Diddy to justice, the dramatic turn of events can be seen as a powerful message. Once celebrated and given the key to the city, Diddy now faces the full weight of the law. The commitment to holding him accountable for his alleged crimes sends a clear signal that no one, no matter their status, is above the law. The pursuit of justice continues, and we'll be here to follow every development. As we await further developments, the case against Diddy continues to unfold, leaving many questions unanswered. What will happen next in this high-stakes legal battle? How will the revelations impact the entertainment industry and beyond? Stay tuned to our channel for the latest updates on this unfolding story.